if the sun made a noise when it was setting, so everybody knew to run out and see it, that'd be really cool. Because it'd make people realize that there's this beautiful planet that we live on. It'd make them forget about whatever stupid crap they're worrying about at that moment. And most people are usually worrying about something silly that they can't do anything about in that moment. But the sun setting, that's happening, that's real. Get out and enjoy it. That'd be cool.
That'd be great.
That, or one of those farts that has like a really high pitch, like when a trumpet gets like one of those where it's like where like the fart's trying to break out of jail, like it's escaping from prison, like it's just trying to crawl under the fence. It's like a fart trying to crawl under a fence. It's that noise.
That's what you want to hear at 5 o'clock?
Well, no, that wouldn't be the noise, but that would be my other favorite noise because it'd make me giggle.
Yeah, I think that makes everybody giggle. Yeah. I'm giggling now that you say it. So that's a good one too.
It's a polite fart, and it's just so it's like, oh, wait a minute, gotcha. I see you're trying to hide it, but you can't hide the tenacious fart.
Tenacious.
Whoops. Oops.
That makes me think about what was the movie with the five guys and the usual suspects when they're in that interrogation room, and what's the tallest actor? I totally forget what his name is, but he was apparently farting in that interrogation room, and that's why all of them were laughing so much. Even though, it's supposed to be real, but he was like farting. So every time they're like saying their name, saying what they do, they're like laughing because he was doing that.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I watched and I read something about that, and I was like, oh my God, that's a great take. Which explains why it's so organic.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Truth.
So hey, James, you started a documentary series and called Leap. Tell me about that. I mean, what is this about? Because it looked, I watched the trailers that you had. You had a couple of really great guests on there, 3 of them. And tell me about that. Tell me about the audience, so the audience knows what's going on.
Well, everyone's heard that expression, taking a leap of faith. And the way that I am defining it is it's when you come to the crossroads in your life and you realize that you're unhappy, you're unfulfilled, doing what you're currently doing, or living the life that you're currently living, for whatever reason, whether it's vocational reasons, you're not happy with your job, or you're not happy with the person you love, or whatever it might be, whatever you're missing. You come to that crossroads and you have to decide, are you going to continue to settle for an existence or go out and try and create your best life? And sometimes doing that is filled with a lot of unknowns. It's filled with making a really big change. And we're subconsciously wired to resist change. It's our subconscious trying to keep us safe. So how do you reconcile that within yourself, knowing you want something but being scared to death to do it? And it's filled with taking significant risks where the outcome is really unknown and unclear. That's what taking a leap of faith is by definition. And so people fascinate me, why they do certain things, why they don't do others. So I wanted to see what were the factors that pushed people forwards, to go down that path of the unknown, and what held other people back. Mm-hmm. And it came from meeting all these people out in LA when I first moved here that were talking about all the crazy things they did to make their life happen out here, or to try and make it happen. And they said these things so casually, and I'm like, I was blown away. I'm like, I was scared to death just to come here and leave my life behind and quit my job and come out and do this. And I realized that everybody out here seems to have done that, or most people have, and I was kind of blown away by that. And I thought, am I a wuss, or is LA truly a unique city, especially those that have given up a life to come out here and try to be in the entertainment industry? Is it a unique city, or did I miss something about the human spirit all along? And I think the answer is both. Yes, LA is a unique city, but I think most people do settle for a life of quiet desperation, as that poet said. Mm-hmm. And there is also something unique about the human spirit where everybody has it in them to go through a process, if you will, and figure out whether they are, in fact, at that crossroads. I think a lot of times people come to the crossroads and they take the safer path. A lot of people come to the crossroads and just storm right through, not even realizing that they've come to a critical decision-making point in their life. They're living like robots day in, day out. So I wanted to make a series that dove into that moment when you're at that crossroads of existence versus intentional creation of an amazing life.
That I understand all of that. I really do, from a personal standpoint, which I am one of those people that takes the chances. I always have been since I was a kid. So I really relate to exactly what you're talking about, and in the thought process of, and it has nothing to do about LA. I've just sort of been wired that way since I was a kid. I decide that I want to do something, and I'm like, all right, I'm going this route. I've left a lot of things, and I've dropped good jobs just because I'm like, it's wrong.
Yeah,
we need to focus on something else. I need to focus on what the path is that I want to go to, and don't be locked in, which is extremely difficult though, it's extremely difficult though, because we have to take responsibility.
That's right.
As adults.
That's
right. So
right.
you talk about people sort of getting locked into that area, and they're not, I think it's very difficult, which is an area. Are you looking to talk with those people of how, in your documentary, in what you've talked with, have you discovered how these people have broken free in their way of wanting to pursue whatever they're going for, and broken free from the adult responsibilities that we still have to take?
Well, here's the thing. It's an interesting thing, because you're absolutely right. It's really hard to reinvent yourself and take a leap of faith when you've got a wife, a mortgage, 2 kids, college now costing what, $50,000 a year?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how the hell are you going to do that when you cut off from your source of income to go pursue something? I mean, that makes it really tough. It makes it a lot more challenging. And, I just believe that there's ways to leap responsibly, right? Without putting your loved ones at risk of poverty and things like that. And, that there's ways to do it for everybody, but some people might have a greater challenge than others, depending on what, the nature of their calling is, so to speak. So when we talk about a leap of faith, you would only do it if you feel compelled to, if you feel like, there's something inside of you pulling you towards it.
Is that kind of where your documentary is sort of showcasing? Is that the people that really feel that they are compelled to do something, as opposed to the people that are kind of wanting to?
Yeah, we have people that are at a point of maximum conflict, meaning that they're on one path and they desperately want to be on another, and they're taking steps, towards that path, and they're right at the precipice. Are they going to really go through it with it and follow through, or are they going to, shirk back and stay the tried and true path? And I don't, mean that to say that people that, have a 9 to 5 and do that for 40, 50 years and retire, there's nothing wrong with that if you're happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the important thing, because you only get one life to live. I was looking through a lot of the questions that you came up with to ask your different podcast guests. You're kind enough to show them to me, and I know that in a single podcast you maybe only ask 15% of them,
right?
But a lot of them center around death, which I asked you about. So what is wrong with you, man? Come on, jeez. I expect to see you in goth, like finger paint and like dark guyliner.
That'll be my next one. I'm going to be all in that.
All decked out. But then, when you think about it, though, I mean, this isn't a drill. One of my leap guests said, hey, it's not a drill. You only get one time on this planet. It's not a drill. This is for real. And so what are you going to do with that time? So questions about death, thinking about the fact that you're going to die one day is, I think important, as it can compel you to do the things that, you could say, oh, well, maybe someday I will.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only thing you know for sure is someday you're going to be dead. Someday there will be no next day. So,
right.
So what are you going to do with this day?
That's why I have,
yeah.
That's why I mean, I do think about it.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, I think, about death, is that you have to accept it.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing when it happens. There's no going back from it.
Yeah.
But the reality is that happens. So this isn't a drill. You have to take whatever life we have right now. That is why I like a lot of those questions, because it's inevitable. It's the one thing that's going to happen. So if you're not thinking about it now, and it's not that it's on my mind, like, oh my God, I'm going to die. It's not like that. It's the thought process where something might come up and it's like, oh shit.
I think there's
I
some.
need.
I think there's some Woody Allen movie where he comes
Yeah.
running down the stairs. It was either Woody Allen or Larry David because two peas in a pod. He comes running down the stairs. And he goes to his wife, "I'm dying, I'm dying," and she goes, What's wrong now?" And he goes, "No, eventually."
Right?
And he's terrified at the fact that one day he's not going to be here.
It just dawns on you, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, shit.
Yeah.
I've got, and I will say, I have, and it's been kind of my entire life. That's why I think probably you read some of those questions. You're like, oh shit, it's all about death. No, not at all. But it's something that I've thought about since I was like a teenager. And, obviously teenagers, they're looking for something. The mind is changing. You're developing into an adult at that time.
Hormones are raging. The mind is changing.
Big time.
You're transitioning from child to adult. It's a cluster.
Yeah. And so for me during that time, I looked at the future and I was like, okay. And I'm very logical also. So I put things in numbers and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be 20. What happens when I turn 30? What happens when I turn 40? What happens when I turn 50? I can only do certain things when I get to these ages. So I basically kind of put a whole bunch of stuff in my own bucket list and was like, all right, it means I got to do these things first. Before, because I can't do them when I'm 40, I won't be able to do any of this when I'm 50. Right. So I've got this. This is what I got to do. And I don't want to be stuck. You mentioned, the people working their jobs.
Right.
They don't want to work these 40-hour jobs, or people that, we're stuck in it. I don't think a lot of people want to work in those areas. But that was an area that I thought of personally as a kid. I don't want to be stuck in.
Well, what was that one provocative question about it was an ultimatum about 40 hours a week or 40 years?
Here's a good one. Would you choose to be poor for 40 years, or would you choose to hate working 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life?
And I love that question because at face value, it's quite simple, but there's a lot to unpack there. I think a lot of people automatically associate being poor with being unhappy. And, that's not necessarily true. You can be poor, but still have a roof over your head and food to eat. You just don't have any money for other outside, fun, so to speak. And
no drinking.
Right. Right. Or no having a drink out, because in LA it's going to run you $6 to $18 depending on what kind of beer, that adds up fast.
Yeah.
So, it depends. If you're doing what you were put on this planet to do and you feel fulfilled, Mother Teresa was poor, Gandhi was poor. Were they unhappy? No.
Right.
Right. So, I think that we have to break when we look at people that come to the crossroads and they're questioning whether or not they're whether they need to take a leap of faith. I think you have to do some careful self-examination and strip yourself of the BS rules that society has placed around you. Mind Valley, it's great self-help conglomerates, so to speak, and started by one guy who asked a lot of these questions of himself and others. And they have a whole great speaker series. And he wrote this book, and he talked about rules, the bullshit rules, and you have to escape from the culture-scape that you've been fed as a kid. And so, we automatically associate poor with a homeless person on the street shivering. And yes, that is some poor people, but there are other poor people that are incredibly happy. And in fact, psychological studies show that once your basic needs are met, and I think in America, they said that if you have a median, like once you reach an income of around $40,000 a year, well, you're not rich, you're not poor, but a lot of people are driven to make a six-figure income, be able to buy a house, raise a family. There's no correlation in money and happiness past that 40,000 level, which for most people is enough to have your basic needs met. Mm-hmm. So given that, why would you ever choose to be miserable 40 hours a week if you can find a way to make that money, doing other things, whether those are the things that make you happy or whether there are other things that are necessary to do to pursue the thing that makes you happy. For me, I'd be okay with $40,000 a year. In fact, I have been and am, not to divulge too much. Sure, I'd like to make more, but not at the expense of what I felt when I was working in corporate America for 2.5 years, which was being miserable 40 hours a week.
Right.
To me, I would much rather, do other jobs and things so that I can work on the things that make me really happy, like producing this docuseries. And now that's turned into running a film festival to give other people a platform. That's something that I feel is far more valuable, can do more good. So, those are the things that compel me, that make me want to wake up and say, I'm dying, I better get to work.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I'm dying, and I wish it would come sooner because my life sucks. And a lot of people kind of feel that way, and that's
It's
unfortunate.
it is. That's a depression state.
Yeah,
It is hard to break from that.
yeah.
I haven't been there myself, but everything that I've watched and read, and people get into a very depressive state and they want to die.
It's true.
Mm,
And some people might be asking, what does this have to do with me? I'm not depressed. I'm not worried about dying, and I'm happy enough in my life. And I think when we look at this topic, there's a few kind of prerequisites before you would be a guest on Leap, so to speak. If we were filming the docuseries today. And one would be, am I happy? And, meaning, am I fulfilled?
hmm
Not am I satisfied? 'Cause satisfied is like the bare minimum. But am I truly fulfilled? Do I go about my day with joy and satisfaction with what I'm doing? Do I feel good at the end of it from what I've accomplished? Um, and if the answer is no, the next question is, what do I want? And that's a really tough question because I think we've been conditioned to, you know, only answer that within the box that we've placed ourselves within.
Right.
So I got a wife and 2 kids, so that eliminates 90%. I don't personally, but I'm saying that like that's I think how some people might think. Oh, I can't do any of this because. But if you kind of shut your logical mind off for a while, don't let the computer run the programmer. Be the programmer and run the computer. Your mind's the computer.
Right.
Shut down that logical mind for a minute and allow yourself to daydream like you did when you were a kid, and really look at what puts a smile on your face when you imagine yourself doing it. What really excites you. And I think if you can find a way to do that, to dream freely without worries about how would I ever do that? Just let it be enough to fantasize and figure out what you want. And once you figure that out, then you can look at what you said earlier. How do I leap with respect to my adult responsibilities without, leaving my wife and kids, or without leaving them destitute,
Yeah.
or whatever it might be, whatever, responsibilities you have in your life. How do you do that responsibly? And then you turn back on the logical mind and figure it out, and figure out how you can take this huge risk and make this big change, and not totally shirk your responsibilities. Um, so, I think that that's sort of the prerequisites to being at the crossroads and deciding whether or not you want to take that leap of faith.
Being compelled to
Yeah.
feel like you have to do something in a sense
Yeah.
that you really want to.
Yeah.
It's something that's been missing possibly in your own heart. I think that's where it really comes from.
Yes. A lot of people have hidden compulsions. You don't even know that you're called to do it or compelled to do it. So all you have is this sense of misery, the doldrums, boredom, feeling old while you're still young. Bob Dylan has a lyric, I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. And I would really love to ask him what he was writing about in his own life, or in the lives of the people that he met that made him come up with that lyric.
Mm-hmm.
What was going on with you or with them? I want to know the circumstances, because I feel like it's a really hopeful lyric, because you might feel like old and worn down, and you could feel that way at any age. But to say I was so much older than that, so much older. What did I say?
It was perfect.
Dylan's got me all confused. His lyrics are so poetic, I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now. I think there's always an opportunity to feel young again, and you have to keep that part of your brain that dreams like a child alive. You have to be childlike without being childish. But let's not take my word for it. Let's not take my word for it. We were going to call my buddy Billy Bross.
You want to call him?
I want to call him because
let's call him.
He's somebody that's done this, and he's really articulate, and he's got balls of brass because he took that leap of faith. And
is he going to tell us what he did, or what did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm let him tell the story.
Let's him tell the story here. What do we got? Just so everybody knows, we're calling somebody on the phone for the audience too.
Billy speaking.
Hey, Billy. Oh, good. I was right. This is Billy Bross's number. You're
good
on
guess,
the
good guess.
You're on the air, buddy. We're talking about some of the prerequisites for taking a leap of faith, seeing if people are at that crossroads, in that place in their life where they do it. And a couple of the questions were asking yourself, am I happy? Am I fulfilled? And then if not, what do you want out of life? That's part of it. and to be able to dream freely without worrying about how. And then the last one is, how do I take a leap of faith without completely shirking all of my adult responsibilities? Or is it okay to do so?
All right, let's do it. So should I just take those one by one then?
Well, let's tell our audience a little bit. We went in cold here on you. Let's go ahead
Yeah.
and tell them about your journey and about when you took your first big leap.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so it really all started back at the end of college. So one thing to know about me is that I love learning. I always have. I've always been a pretty fast learner, and I just like figuring things out and getting good at them and making them part of what I do in my everyday life. And so back in college, I got really into renewable energy. That's back when that was really big: solar power, wind power, biodiesel, that kind of thing. And I was just really fascinated by it, and I liked how it could have a big impact too. That was really important to me. So I went to work for a consulting company specializing in that. It worked out great. It was exactly what I studied in college, and then that was exactly what I was doing for my career, and it was going great. I got my MBA and had a really cushy job. Got paid a good salary, benefits, and all that. And you hear a lot of, because right now I'm self-employed. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm growing a company. And you hear a lot of entrepreneurs kind of bash the 9-to-5 world or bash even higher education, college. And it really wasn't like that for me. Like I don't have that story of, I hated my job and I wanted to get out of there. I actually liked my company a lot. I liked the work that I was doing because I went into a field I was passionate about. And I liked my coworkers. It was a small boutique consulting company working with really big companies. So Fortune 50 companies, publicly traded utilities, and government agencies. So it was really cool, but I always had this itch to do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So and this started, probably a week into that job. Even though I was there for 7 years, about a week in, I knew that it wasn't a permanent thing. Like I didn't know when, but I knew I was on my way out of there.
Billy,
Eventually.
I gotta pause you for a second, man. I was telling the audience about me leaving a corporate job that I was at for 2.5 years. I joke I was there for 2.5 years, and that was 2 years too long. You really are a quick study. It took me 6 months to realize I was unhappy. But Billy, I thought I was a slow mover. It took me 2 years to get out of there. It took you 6 3/4 or 6 9/10. What's up with that?
It did, and it's because. And look, if I would have hated my company, I would have been out of there in a year or two.
Well, that was me, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it was tough. But I eventually, that itch got stronger and stronger, itchier and itchier, and and they were having me start to do some work that I wasn't crazy about. I was more on the business and finance side, and they were having me do some engineering stuff, and that was not too cool with me. So by that time, I started this beer website on the side. So our mutual friend and I, we drank plenty of beer in college, and so we decided one day, well, we should probably just make our own beer. And
hey, we're experts. We're experts after all.
Yeah, exactly. So that turned into be this whole thing. I got really into it. We did it initially to save money. And then I got really into it and wound up spending like $3,000 building my own brewery. So that idea was out the window. But I found this hobby that I was really passionate about. So after that 9-to-5 job, I would come home and I would work on this website. So this is back when craft beer was really taking off in the States. And my timing was perfect. And I also really liked the process of it. And that's been a common theme with me. And I think that's really important, too, for people to keep in mind, is that you really, really have to enjoy the journey, even when it sucks.
Yeah.
So now I relish that because I know that something good is going to come on the other side of that.
Now Billy, let me ask you a question, a specific. I feel like that's something that a lot of people have heard, even people that are hopelessly goal-minded and are obsessed with the outcome. They've all heard, the journey is the thing. Can you tell us a time when you really hated the journey and you had to remind yourself of that bit of wisdom you just dropped on us?
Oh, yeah. Well, so I did this. I had a lot of failures. I mean, that site and that business overall was a success, but there were a lot of failures along the ways. And I remember one time I had this great idea. I taught this beer tasting class, and I had an idea for a continuation of it. And for a number of reasons, it really didn't pan out, and I invested a whole lot into it. And that was really tough for me. And I planned a lot of things to come after that big success, which never actually came. So I had to go through that process of getting that thing out there, watching it fail and then recovering from it. And the thing I kept telling myself, and look, that really sucked. It was hard. But the thing I kept telling myself was, look, I've read so many stories, so many books, biographies, autobiographies about entrepreneurs, and they've had so many failures. I can't even think of someone who's really successful who's never had a failure.
Right.
And frankly, my little failure for my beer website is not that big compared to a lot of their failures. So I consider it, one of those failures that I just had to get out of the way to get where I want to go.
Do you think it's possible to achieve great success without having either one great failure or a lot of little ones?
No, and if you did, it wouldn't feel successful. You wouldn't feel like you earned anything.
Yeah.
Hey, Billy, for everybody listening here, you talk about failures and how many failures, and you've had a lot of failures. What has there been any thought that stands out to you of how you were able to move forward from, say, a particular failure? Anything that sort of let you drive forward and realize, you know what, it's just a failure. I've got to move forward. This is something I've got to continue on with.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so something that's always driven me is that I have this motto in my business. It's follow fun. So I always do what's fun and exciting for me. And you hear this said another way. People say follow your passion, right? You guys have heard that a million times.
Right.
And that's really never resonated for me. And I think it's just the word. I'm a copywriter. I've studied copywriting, and a slight word change, even if they are synonyms, just the way that it makes you feel, it can be very different. And so that word passion just never really clicked with me. But for me, the words fun, the words exciting, those really click. So I always have something like that out there. I mean, I got a million ideas. So when that thing crashed and burned, I had another one right around the corner. And I really just follow, and that's my motto, is follow fun. Whatever feels fun for me, and that's an important word. It has to actually feel fun. And I think that's what people refer to mainly as passion. For me, it's fun, it's excitement. And that's really what drives me. So, something crashes and burns like that did, I kind of wipe my hands and say, okay, what's next?
Yeah. So you actually, you primarily, you've always kind of followed a motto. You've kind of had something already with you ahead of time it sounds like in preparation for a failure, the kind of something that might be inevitable. Is that right?
I mean, I have a million interests. I'm not the kind of guy who's just gonna. I mean, it was like that with the beer website. I mean, that was cool and all, but I wasn't the typical beer aficionado. I mean, it's not my whole life. I was passionate about it for a while, and I kind of conquered that mountain. And again, it was the journey that I was after. So I did that. It was a lot of fun, but then I could feel that passion, or for me, excitement, kind of waning. And then I knew it was time to move on, because that was why I left my full-time job, was because the passion was waning. So that's how I knew it was time to move on. And same thing with the beer business.
Two things I want to follow up on that you said that I thought were terrific. One, because you just said it, I think a lot of people are looking for a quick and ultimate fix. They say, well, if I can just change this and take this leap and start this path, I'll be set, I'll be good. And I think a lot of people, go through cycles of disappointment because they fail to recognize that the only constant is change. And they have to be okay with, this idea of reinventing yourself whenever the fun runs out, and that's okay. I think a lot of people don't realize that happiness is not a stagnant thing. Like, once you've done this, you will be happy. I think that happiness is a daily practice, right? And you have to always check in with, am I having fun? It would be your barometer, right?
Yeah, exactly. And am I growing?
Am I growing?
So am I better today than I was yesterday?
Right.
I think that's what makes you the happiest. I think happiness comes from that. And I totally noticed that. And again, going back to that, the beer business, I just I was getting diminishing returns in that department, in the personal growth department. And then when I pivoted, so I sold that last year, and now I have a consulting company, and now I feel like I'm on the bottom of that curve again, just learning so much. And it's just really fast growth again. And that's what I missed.
Well, you know, Billy, the good news is that when you're 60 years old, you'll be able to be a subject matter expert for CNN on anything. If you keep if you keep reinventing yourself this way.
Maybe, James. I don't know about CNN, but maybe.
But you know, the other thing you said about fun being the barometer, follow your passion, puts this pressure on us to go, what am I the most excited about in the whole world? And that's a tall order to fill, but we all can relate to fun. It's like and you talked about that in response to Ryan's question about how do you move forward from failure. If you're a little kid, like 5 years old, and you're learning how to ski for the first time, you're going to fail, you're going to fall, you're going to get snow in places on your body where you don't want it, you're going to be freezing, you're going to be uncomfortable, but boy, are you going to be giggling and laughing. Try to learn skiing when you're 20, you might get frustrated because you become a creature that society has told you must be successful, you must find success in what you do. But we were talking earlier about the difference between being childlike and childish, and I think always holding on to that childlike nature is so important. And I think that when you talk about having fun being the barometer, I think that if you can bring that into your adult life, you're marrying the beauty that we see in childlike enthusiasm with the skill sets that we develop as adults.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that you see children doing that adults don't really do is that they experiment a lot more. They're very curious about the world. And a lot of people try to figure out their passion by sitting on the couch thinking about it. And you really can't do it that way. You have to go out and experience things in the world and collect data. That's really what you're doing.
You just quoted verbatim one of the guests I had on the Leap docuseries in the trailer. He says, you're not going to find it sitting in a lazy boy. You got to get out there, do stuff, take chances. It's really, I'm getting goosebumps hearing you pretty much say verbatim what this guy said to me 6 years ago. 6 years ago when we went and shot these 3 guests for the first time. And it's funny that you said that, but used the word data. We're sitting here with Ryan, who is self-defined, one of the most logically driven guys that he knows.
Yeah.
Hey, it's true though. It's true. James, we always talk about planes. We both love aviation, right?
Yeah.
And I always, thought I might want to get my pilot's license, but one day I said, you know what, I'm going to go figure that out. I'm going to go do an intro flight. And it wasn't that much money, and it was quick and easy, and I had a blast, right? So now that's a goal of mine. I think about that. One day I want to get that pilot's license, but I didn't know that unless I went out and tried it.
Yeah. You can't sit there and think, I think I would like this.
Yeah, go try stuff.
It sounds like you've been. It sounds like your mindset, Billy, is extremely flexible, and James, you mentioned being childlike in that sense, and I think that's what kind of talking about the skiing, that's what kind of made me think about, and with what Billy has done and having all these ideas, is just consistently being very flexible in life. You've got your responsibilities, we're adults now, but as you turn 20 years old and then you get older, we become more rigid.
Yes.
And as children, being childlike, we're very flexible, we're willing to take risks because we're willing to fail. And such as you've been doing, Billy, what it sounds like is you've been extremely flexible and just understanding and not afraid of failing, moving forward, being flexible, and continuing on, which is, it's fantastic. It really is.
Billy.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Billy.
I'm just saying I never thought about it that way, but that's a great way to describe it. Yeah, being flexible for sure. And I will clarify something. I am scared all the time.
That's a good thing. That is a really good thing.
But I'm good at doing it anyways.
Another one of those self-help buzzwords is fun, comfortable. You've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, or convenience and conviction don't live on the same block. If you decide you're going to do something, it's going to be inconvenient. You're going to have to overcome a lot of things that don't, the growing pains is what I'm getting at. It's funny, Billy. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us, man. We're talking here, folks, with the most educated beer guy in the world, and he's got an MBA. And he's got an MBA, and he's teaching people how to do home brewing. And it reminds me of my buddy Pete Carrington. I went to high school with him. He got his master's in clinical social work. He was helping. He's got a hero complex. He loves to help people, and it's a good thing. So he was a social worker and working, with kids that come from with absentee parents, parents that are in jail, addicted to drugs, abusive, etc. But he always wanted to be a fireman since he was a little boy. And he signed up to take the test in New York. And nobody ever quits a job as a New York firefighter because you retire making 150 grand a year, and you get half pension for the half pay for the rest of your life. So you can join at 30, be done at 50. It's 20 years, and get 75 grand a year. So you can take as many leaps of faith as you want on that and go do whatever you want. But it took him 9 years because no one ever quits. So eventually his number came up to actually go and take the real test once you take the application test. And he aced it and worked harder than he ever had in his life. And now he's running in and out of burning buildings, and it's scary. He takes huge chances every day and has a baby and another one on the way. So, he's taken that leap of faith, and now he has to balance that with this responsibility. And that's one of the things that we were talking about. I still don't have a good answer for how we can leap responsibly, because sometimes taking a leap of faith, it feels like it could be a selfish act. And I think when you get older, you should have the same right as anybody else to reinvent yourself. But boy, what do you do when you have all this real responsibility, i.e. for other people's lives? That's one that I don't really have a good answer to.
Yeah, I don't really either. But I guess the only advice I would give there is find someone who's done it before and ask them.
Yeah.
Going along those lines, James, you kind of talk about something there, which made me think about in today's society, in today's world, men in general need that responsibility. So that leap of faith, oftentimes, I do think, is taking all that responsibility on their shoulders, because it gives, and I'm talking about men specifically, it gives men that responsibility because we're pretty simple in that area. And I know me as a man, when I have that direct responsibility, that is what I care about. And so I think taking that leap of faith sometimes, just like you're talking about that man, it possibly is his leap of faith, taking that all responsibility and doing it. And that sometimes is the most fulfilling thing.
I agree 100%. God, how much money is spent in therapy offices dealing with fear of commitment so that we can have that privilege and take that great risk of starting a family, starting with asking someone to marry you. Yeah. I have 3 wedding related things I'm going to this year, and that seems so far off for me, yet it shouldn't, but it does. And I can't wait to talk to these really close friends of mine about, heart to heart, and being like, man, what was it like to actually really pop that question? Were you scared? What did it feel like? How'd you feel when, your first kid was on the way? A couple other high school friends that just had kids for the first time. And it's mind blowing to me. I think you're absolutely onto something there, Ryan. These responsibilities of wife and kids, it's a leap of faith to decide you want to do that. Or let's say that you get your girlfriend or wife pregnant by accident. It's a leap of faith to say, I'm not ready, but I'm doing it anyway. Just I'm compelled to see this through and do whatever that reason might be, whether it's ethical or something else, whatever it is. Right. It feels 100% right, even though the circumstances couldn't be more wrong, and doing it anyway, even though it feels right. That's just as much a leap of faith as anything else. I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, Billy, did you have anything you want to add on the topic before we let you go about coming to the crossroads, taking a leap of faith?
No, I love what you said, and I totally agree. I think men need responsibility. I think it's fulfilling for us. We're supposed to wake up in the morning, leave the cave, go kill something, and bring it home and feed our family. And if we don't do that, we're pretty unhappy.
Yeah.
So totally agree, guys. And I love what you're doing here. This is awesome.
Hey, thanks, Billy. Ryan, any more questions for Billy?
I'm good for now, Billy. I'd love to actually sit down sometime and actually in person and chat with you. That'd be great.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Definitely. Thanks for being here. Thanks for making the call.
No problem. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Billy. Have a good one.
Bye.
So there we have it.
That was great.
There's somebody else, some other guy's opinion.
Yes.
Where we're bringing you nothing but the finest experts. Hey, yo, Billy, my buddy, what's up? Hey, talk to us about taking a leap, would you? Hey,
you're making
nothing
beer.
But experts here.
Hey, everybody, just so you know, there was a couple beeps in there. That was, obviously a live phone call.
Incoming call. My apologies.
Yeah, it's all good. Just so you know, there was a few beeps in there. He's great to talk with.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on there. That was I really like the fact that he did find. I think everybody, they need to find that moment when they are in a long-term job, just like 7 years what he was in, and was he 7? Or did
Yeah.
he say yeah, 7
Mhm.
years? They need in even though he knew it from the first week, he's like, oh shit, this is
Yeah.
not right. But he did keep with his adult responsibilities and continued on with whatever he needed to do, and that comes into that kind of that thing that I look at where adults need to stay with their responsibilities because we have all this stuff that's put on us, whether it's taxes or keeping a roof over our head or having family or having a car payment so that we have all these things. He continued to do it. And now he did find a place, though. He found a way in his life, somewhere along the lines, to break free of that and to pursue what he wanted.
Yeah.
His fun.
Well, it's, and golden handcuffs are real, by the way. It can be it can be easy to say, I'm okay with being satisfied because the money's just so good. Imagine what I'll be able to do with that. But, I think that sometimes you can do that, and other times you just need more. You need more of your time to be yours. And I think that's really what he needed. He needed a new challenge. He was said, yeah, this is great, but what if, he said his desire for curiosity, for more knowledge, I think that's really what compels him. So I think for everybody else that might be listening, I think the question is, what is your driving force? If you ask your best friend who you are, you're going to get the most honest answer. Your family's going to lie to you because they have biased views and they either love you too much to tell you the truth, or they have some pent up shit that they haven't told you about that they don't like you, and they're going to say something hurtful.
There's that, yeah.
And then you shouldn't ask yourself and sit on the couch and try to ruminate about it because you're going to lie to yourself because you got your subconscious, your conscious, you're trying to protect yourself. You're a mess. Don't ask yourself.
Yep.
Your best friends, though, that's usually the best way to figure out who you are as a jumping off point.
Yeah.
And you could say, all right, maybe these are some of the things that everybody sees in me. So maybe this is something that I need to lean into more. This quality, maybe this quality, if I lean into it, will help me down the path of living my most meaningful life, since we only get one.
That is it. So is there something let's ask this. Is there something that's compelling you right now that you want to pursue that perhaps you're not?
I mean, creating this docu-series Leap and creating the pilot and pitching it and taking it out, that was like the first step that led me towards running a socially conscious film festival, trying to bring awareness around a lot of different topics and issues, and really getting people to realize that there's a tremendous satisfaction and fulfillment in living a life of service, spending some amount of your time to try to better the world for all of us, to try to better the way we treat one another, to better the way that we treat our planet. That's sort of my mission right now, and there's a challenge every day with that. And I think the biggest challenge for us now is to take what's become a successful event in 2 cities over 2.5 years and make it viable. So I got to put that business cap right back on again. Business development is what I used to do, but now I'm doing it for me, for a cause I believe in, instead of for Dish Network. And finding the courage again to go and ask high-powered people for a lot of money, because what we're doing is good. Everybody loves it. That sounds arrogant, but I'm somebody who needs evidence before taking and I had gathered all this evidence of being miserable before I took my leap of faith, to quit my job and come out here to LA. And we have enough evidence that this festival thing works, but now we need to make it work financially, and I need to get into that mindset of raising $250,000 a year so that we can pay ourselves salaries, grow, work with other festivals. Otherwise, we're just playing dress up.
Right.
And that's the truth. So that's the next leap. It's to find that stuff within me to ask for a lot of money from really high-powered people.
Yeah, to keep that forward momentum going.
Yeah.
That's the hard one, I think, right there.
Yeah.
Is finding the forward momentum, keeping the drive.
Yeah.
Keeping the drive, whatever that is that you're going for.
Yep.
Finding that forward momentum and sticking with it, because we are hit on a daily basis. The minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, you're hit with something that's negative.
Yeah.
It's negative. We are, and it's human nature. We are protective. Our subconscious is protecting us. Our conscious ways are to protect ourselves and whatever it is, but we are hit with stuff that's negative. So finding that forward momentum that you've got, that's an important thing that you found here.
Well,
Which is great.
you also had a lot of questions on that list of yours about failure. And the way we relate to and deal with failure is so important. And the way Billy talked about it, I thought was great. If you look at failure like that 5-year-old falling as he's learning how to ski, he's giggling all the way because even though it's uncomfortable to get the snow up his crack and up his, he's saying, I'm on a mountain. I'm learning how to do this.
Absolutely.
You know, and like it's one thing if you're failing down in the trenches, that's just miserable. But if you take the risk to get on that lift, get to the top of the mountain, strap on skis, have no effing clue how to stop, how to turn, say, well, down the mountain we go. That's the kind of failure where you're failing, but you're like, I'm on a mountain. It's like that Saturday Night Live song, I'm on a boat, I'm on a boat. You know what I mean? Like, if you're failing in that environment, it's okay. So may you put yourself in an environment where failure is fun.
All I thought instantly was because I have worked as ski patrol and skiing has been my entire life, is I'm just like, oh God, I've seen those people on the mountain. Just like they get off the lift and you're like, oh, you first time, why are you not lower? But
yeah, why did you keep taking lifts to the very top?
Oh, geez. That's the physical side of skiing. I know we're talking about metaphorical.
Come on, you know why it happens, because some jackass friend of theirs said, come on, pussy, you're going to make it to the top.
Yeah, just do it. Just get up there.
I'll do it.
Just jump. And speaking in metaphors, in that side of things, or taking that idea, that's exactly what happens, I think, to a lot of people too.
Yeah.
They get pressured into doing things that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Pressured into going a route that they shouldn't. The peer pressure side of things gets you socially as a teenager, as a kid, whatever the case is. And as an adult, you're wanting to compete against everybody else. And you have to be okay with, no, I don't need the same thing as those people.
Right.
I don't need to go the same route. I can do this. And okay, so I don't have as much money. I don't have the same exact thing. That's okay, because I am better off in my life, and I'm sleeping at nighttime. I close my eyes and I go,
yeah,
and I'm asleep.
I have two friends that chose voluntary homelessness. They lived of one lived out of, he bought a cheap old VW van. The other said, with what I'm paying in rent in LA, struggle's real. With what I'm paying in rent, I could lease a Suburban and have an Equinox membership. Same price, and get rid of all my worldly things. Fast forward now, he has no Equinox membership or SUV or place that he lives. He Airbnbs a month at a time all over the world. And he runs his business from his laptop.
Wow.
And as long as he's got internet connection, he's good to go. So he'll look for deals in places that he wants to visit. And, he had a place in Italy last summer for $800 for the month, which is cheaper than you're paying in LA for rent.
Yeah.
He's about a third of the way there to learning Italian. He can converse with people in Italian. And, he's living in Italy. Why not? And you know where he is now? Portugal. Because why not?
Why not?
And so he stripped his life down to 2 backpacks. So what started as voluntary homelessness has now led to a life of his dreams, where he's making money from his laptop, doesn't have all this crap weighing him down, has no need to buy anything really. And he lives on the cheap and goes on incredible adventures. If he wants to eat a $300 meal, he can do it, because all he's got is a monthly Airbnb to pay and a phone bill, and that's it.
That's great. What is? Do you know what his job is that he does? How he makes his money?
You know what? He was tired of teaching, and he was teaching at prep high school. So he was like the smartest person I know, by the way, the smartest. I don't say that casually. If he's here, the next closest person is here.
No.
So he's a 10. Everyone else is like a 6.2, 6.16 in my life that I know. So he was teaching at like prestigious prep schools and coaching swimming, and making about as much money as you can make doing that, being in his 20s. And so he likes to joke that he retired at 31. But he said, I'm bored, I don't know what to do. And I've known him at that point, I'd known him for close to 10 years. And I said, you have been talking to me forever about this swim practice software that you've created through Microsoft Excel. He basically taught Microsoft Excel how to spit out like workouts based on certain inputs of data. Okay. Why don't you build that all the way out and sell it and patent it and sell it? So he said, that's a great idea. I think I will do that. And he did. And now he sold it, and now he's a consultant for the company that bought it, and they're paying him now as they integrate. So he got a lump sum for selling it, and now he's got a 6-month consultancy, and that'll take him through to the next adventure, whatever that may be.
Wow.
And so I know I have so many people that we could bring on to talk about this. This girl, Melissa, who I used to coach for running, for marathon running when she was living in LA, she quit her corporate job, was making a lot of money, but it was being worked to the bone and didn't like it. And now she travels all over the third world, works from her laptop and lives in like remote places and does similar stuff to what Billy does, online consulting. And Billy teaches experts how to sell their, courses, their different courses on whatever it might be, and helping them position that online through online marketing stuff. So the two of them, Billy and Melissa, do similar things. Billy still has a brick and mortar. He hasn't gone full deep end yet, but my friend Bridger has, and so has Melissa. And, I look at these people, and they're the people that inspire me every day to quit getting in my own way and to move forward. One last thing I want to say about getting in your own way, for those people that might be listening or that want to listen, is there is nothing that, one of your questions was about when is the last time you failed, and where it was completely you and it wasn't because of somebody else or something else. Well, I got news for you, and I got news for me. I had to tell myself this about 4 or 5 years ago. It was a hard truth to swallow. Every failure is your fault.
Yes.
Nobody else can make you fail. Nothing can make you fail.
Yes.
If you stop trying to succeed, that's your decision, and other stuff might happen to make your success harder. But if you fail, it's because you've chosen to. And if you're unhappy, it's because you've chosen a set of circumstances that have led you down a path where you are now unhappy. But when you realize that you are responsible for those choices, the burden of that is that you realize that your happiness is entirely up to you. That's a lot of responsibility. But the freedom of it is realizing that you can choose differently.
Yes.
You got to where you are because you chose it. If you're unhappy, make different choices. So I think that, and then self-talk. Another one of your questions I thought was really great.
Self-talk?
Self-talk is if your best friend talked to you the way that you talk to yourself inside your own head,
right?
Like, not the times when you know that you're being hard on yourself, but like when you all of a sudden zoom out from yourself and you just see the negative deluge of things you're saying, when you notice that, how long would you be friends with that person if your friend talked to you that way?
Yes.
You wouldn't put up with that from another human.
Right.
So why do you let it insidiously creep in, where you're just sitting on the TV watching couch, or sitting on the couch watching TV? That's how I know it's probably about time to wrap this thing up. When you're sitting on the couch watching TV.
There's an alternate. You get to sit on the TV and watch the couch.
Yeah, could.
It's reassessment.
Dude, talk about flipping
self-assessment.
The script. Turn it upside down.
That's exactly what we're talking about. I mean, we're using that exact mess up, but that's exactly what we're talking about, though, is imagine you sitting from the TV side of things, looking at yourself from the couch or from the chair and going, what am I doing there?
By the way, that would be a really funny surrealist painting. And if any of you out there like to paint, I would commission you to make that for me.
That'd be
great.
Hang
it on my wall.
That is actually, it's a really good one.
It'd be a great painting. It's the kind of thing that makes you giggle and go, huh.
Makes you think.
It almost makes you think of the absurdity of all the time we spend on the couch watching TV instead of living our life. It's almost as absurd as sitting on the TV watching the couch.
And here I am in the film business making stuff for people to sit there and watch.
Well, there I was in the satellite TV business trying to figure out how to get more people to sit on their couch and watch TV. Until I went home, sat on my couch, watched the movie The Bucket List, where Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson are dying of cancer and they make a list of things they want to do. Theirs was like adventure stuff, like let's do this, let's do that. And I said, well, all right, but what's mine? But what's mine vocationally, since my job is what's bringing me so much dissatisfaction, And ironically, I hated my job where I was trying to get more people on the couch to watch satellite TV, but I went home, sat on the couch, and watched the right movie at the right time. And it made me ask those questions of myself. Am I happy? What do I actually want? And boy, I'm having a tough time answering that question. What crap is in my way? Why can't I even let myself be free enough to ask what I want? So anyway, a lot of those questions that you had way at the bottom of your list, boy, do they pertain to what we're talking about today.
They do, in a different way. They really do here. On a scale of, let's say, 1 to 10, how weird are you?
You know, like when you go out with your friends and you know you're like, dude, that's a 9, and then you're like, no, man, maybe I'll give her a solid 7. I'm probably an 8.
Really?
So I'm
On
pretty
the weird
friggin'
scale?
weird. Yeah,
Okay, so what's the weirdest? What are we grading here as a being a 10 of weird?
I mean a 10 would be like, okay, I'm a weird combination of relatable
Okay.
yet very weird. Like, you know, if I just acted out and said everything that amused me or that I wanted to do, like a lot of this stuff, it wouldn't get me arrested, but like nobody would be able to like relate. And I would be giggling like the school kid the whole time. But, you know, I value relationships and connection with humans, so I suppress a lot of the weirdness.
Okay.
But, you know, my bucket list of weird shit I want to do and say, like my sense of humor is very like you know what the kind of stuff that Ali G would do or that Sacha Baron Cohen would do, and like he made a career off. Like I would love to
Oh
just do
yeah.
that in my everyday life, but there's consequences.
I don't know. My scale of weirdness on like a 10 is like that. I saw that video. I saw a video recently of the naked man that was running from the police, and like he was doing backflips and kicking the police off, and then he like rolled over and he ran up and against he like put his back up against the wall and then pushed off one police, and the police were still trying to chase him, and he ran off.
But what's the verdict of, you know, mental instability or drugs? You know, I'm talking about weird without mental
anything else,
deficiency
okay.
or without you know substances. Like just you know what goes on in the course of your mind, and what would you do if there were no rules? Like a lot of people would say, wouldn't have. I have all this crazy stuff I would love to do, but
I think everybody
alas.
does.
You think so?
Yes. It inside, I really well look at movies and look at some of the books that are some of the most popular that some people don't even think about, like 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of stuff that's really deep inside people that they don't want to bring out and they don't think about it. And yet it's out there. Look at all the movies and the TV shows. Everything's about crime.
Yeah.
Everything's about doing this and doing that. And people don't want to do it in real life, but we love to watch it. We love to read about it. We love
live
to see
vicariously through it. And
yeah. There's a lot of, I think so. Everybody's got it. It's just a question of where they are willing to take it morally, you know, and the 99% of people don't want to take it to any level. They just want to be like, oh yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. But realistically, they wouldn't want to do it. I mean,
that's true.
There's so much stuff that I think about and I'm like, oh, hell no.
My genre is funny weird. Like I'm the kind of guy where like, you know, if there was like a yard sale or something and there was a toilet out there, I would want to take a crap in the toilet on the sidewalk and just watch people's reactions. And the more public, the better. Like, I like that kind of stuff. Or like coming to a stoplight and, you know, you pop the trunk and 2 people go running out of your trunk like, you know, half naked with like their hands tied and bent over the mouth. Just to let the people behind you go, the hell? You know? Just stuff like that, like shock value. I like shock value, weird stuff, like literally walking through a crosswalk buck naked in LA and see if anybody even honks. Because frankly, if you do it in Hollywood, people are just gonna be like, oh yeah, another weirdo.
So I'm assuming if somebody was like, hey, here's a giant tub of Jell-O, go ahead and spread it on yourself and be naked and go run down the street, you'd be okay with that?
I mean, yeah, the trouble is that Jell-O doesn't actually like stick to the skin; it slides right off. Been there, done that, Ryan.
Okay.
No,
okay. Yeah. Clearly, you have.
Okay, I have. I'm not gonna lie.
All good. Hey, James. Is there anything else that I should have, asked that you were expecting to talk about that we've haven't covered here?
Well, we started this whole thing by me blowing the dust off this docuseries that got me down the journey of creating the film festival. And if anybody wants to check it out, the website is kind of 3/4. It's like 25% in disrepair, 75% there. But you can see the trailer, read a little bit about, what this project's all about, just from the project perspective rather than the topical perspective, which is what we talked about today. But you can go to leapthemovement.com and you can see a couple of little videos and read a little bit about some of the guests and things that we had on. And, you can follow it on Facebook, even though I haven't posted there in a while. But you can get a taste of some of the things that we did back when we shot this, if this is interesting to you at all.
And you're going to be bringing on more guests.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the bigger thing. There's a bigger plan to all of this.
Yeah, I think we can bring on a lot of interesting folks. And it'd be great if, as this gathers steam and momentum, if we encourage people to call in and, talk about things that they're thinking about doing. Not people that have necessarily done it, but people that are thinking about doing it. We can just have a chat about it.
I think that's a great one there, is people that are thinking about it, because they need to figure it out. They need a bit of counseling, motivation. They have to talk it through sometimes to figure out what's their next step.
Oh boy, if it wasn't for my parents and a couple of really close friends when I was thinking about quitting my job and coming out here, I probably wouldn't have done it. You
Mm,
know, you need support to, do these things. And if you can do it without support, man, powerful dude or dudette.
that's I don't want to say that's me because I've always had a little bit of support. I've been able to just I shouldn't say I've been able to, but I've been I am fortunate enough to be educated enough knowing that if I was to drop whatever I was doing, I could go somewhere and I would be okay. I'll get a job. I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Might not be a great job. I'll be working minimum wage, but I'll move forward. So I don't want to say that you can't do it without support because
Oh, I don't mean financial. I mean just having people to talk to you.
but people to talk to, and that's what I'm kind
Yeah.
of getting to is because I would say the one I haven't really had anybody anytime that I've dropped everything and just been like, you know what, this isn't for me. I got to move on. I got to do this. I got to do this. This is what I have to focus on. Has been I haven't really had anybody technically like, hey, okay, smart move, whatever it is. But my mom's place has always been more like base camp, where I was able to kind of leave my skis, leave my mountain bike, leave everything, and be like, you know what? I can leave it there. And then while I'm off living and doing everything else, if I need to actually go grab something, there's some sort of a base somewhere. So it's, you're right. I think everybody still, you have to have some sort of supportive something there.
You know, my friend who is, going Airbnb across the world, once he did that, he all of a sudden spent a lot more time flying back and forth to visit his family in Austin and Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that echoes what you're saying. You know, you need to feel like you belong somewhere while you're out there venturing into the unknown.
Yeah. It's nice to have something that makes you feel grounded.
And you belong with us. So call us.
Do it, everybody. If you
Call,
got something.
Call us with your queries and questions on Leap, and let's have a chat about some big risk or change that you feel like you might need to take.
I like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like we have a new segment that we should be creating here.
We just may.
I like
Let's do it.
All right, James. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ryan.
And,
Appreciate it, my man.
We'll talk again.
Sounds good.